Hi there, thanks for joining me. And today we're going to talk about economics again. Now, somebody once said that to sum up economics, we can use the phrase, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Now, you've probably heard that phrase before. And I think this is a bit of a hot topic in the sense that school lunches, free school meals for children has been in the news for quite a while, and there's been debate backwards and forwards. And I can't help thinking that the news leads us to believe that most children, or certainly a large number of children in this country, are starving, and their parents are either unwilling or unable to feed them. Now, I've got to be honest and say, I don't think that's true. I think that very few children in this country are starving. And there are very few families that are in a situation of being absolutely destitute because we have such a huge welfare system. So that's my first thought on the matter. Now, giving free lunches to children is surely a good thing, is it not? Because we don't want anyone to starve. Now, that is true. Of course, we don't want anyone to starve. But that doesn't necessarily mean the solution is giving free school meals to children. Now, if we believe the phrase, there's no such thing as a free lunch, then we must expect there to be a payment somewhere for these so-called free school meals for children. Now, the first and most obvious way payment is tax. And I mean, certainly literally that is how these lunches are paid for. It is paid for through tax. And I always think a useful phrase to remember is, it's easy to be generous with other people's money. I remember, I'm not going to name the name, but you remember there was a famous footballer who had a campaign to get free school meals. I think it was during the school holidays, something ridiculous like that. And he was considered a hero. I think he might even have got an MBE from it. And I definitely thought, regarding him, it's very easy to be generous with other people's money. How much of his own money did he spend? Probably not very much. Is that a man with a lot of money? Very likely. So that kind of thing doesn't impress me. If he'd set up his own canteen and he was giving away meals, but he'd spent time and money on himself, well, fair play to him. But that's not what he did. So now, the other cost is, what is the concept of a free school meal teaching us as a society, as a people? What is it particular teaching children? And I think the main thing is dependence on the state, and dependence for one of our most basic needs, which is food. And that's a slippery slope. That is definitely the thin end of the wedge in terms of government control. And, if children are learning at a young age, from the age of 5, that they don't have to depend on themselves or their family for food, but they're going to be fed by the state. What are they going to be like at the age of 18, at the age of 25, as adults? What is their expectation going to be of the state in terms of being fed? That would be my first question. Okay, the second thing, the cost to us as a society, is the concept that nutrition is not important. And the reason I say this is because, now I can't speak for councils across the country, but I can say with confidence, I've seen the food that is dished out in Glasgow City Council for children, and that food is trash. It is absolute trash. Not only has it no nutritional value, it has no taste either, because apparently salt is bad for us. I don't think there's any evidence for that, but they won't salt the food, so it's unbelievably bland. So trash food is fine, nutrition is not important. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because it leads down this road of I don't control my food myself. I don't decide what I eat. You know the phrase that people use, they bandy it about, my body, my choice. Well, if somebody else is providing your meals for you, you don't get to choose what you eat. So that trash food is going into the body. It's not doing it any good. It's sustaining it in terms of energy, but above that, it's not doing it any good. As far as I'm concerned, the idea that the state should provide meals is completely abhorrent. And it, as I said, it really is the thin end of the wedge. And because that mentality, that ideology is being embedded in the children at such a young age, the only thing that can lead to is greater state control. And so what I'm showing you there is a little bit of a microcosm of economics with just one area that we're facing right now, free school meals. The media leads us to believe that this is a great thing and that the state is the great saviour of the poor, starving children across the country. But the truth of the matter is, all that does is feeds the children trash, leads them to be dependent on the state, and I think this is possibly the most important thing, it undermines the parents. It leads to the parents saying, I'm not taking any responsibility for your food. That basic need. Food should be provided by parents. The overwhelming majority of parents, they want to feed their children. And when the parents are deciding what the children eat, they can provide a nutritional meal. They don't have to depend on the trash that the schools provide. So, I'm presenting two things at the same time here. Free school meals are a terrible idea, but also they highlight to us the horror of state interference in our lives, state overreach, and the idea that the state should be providing things that actually should come from the family. Now that is economics. So economics is very much our day-to-day lives, and yes, that is how economics and these ideologies impact us day to day. Okay? And that is us heading down the road towards communism. Because in communism, the state provides everything. The state is everything. And the parents are nothing. Nobody. Okay? If you want greater freedom, if you want greater freedom for your children, then the way forward is responsibility. Taking responsibility for all aspects of your child's life, including education, which is another thing that we have offloaded onto the state, as though the state is the only thing that knows anything. Okay? You know far better than the state. You know better than the teachers. You know and love your child in a way that no teacher can. So, thanks very much for watching, and see you again next time. Bye.